Welcome to Just Talk Funerals with me, Jason Threadgold.
And me, Nichola Threadgold.
Just Talk Funerals is all about the funeral industry, the people that work alongside us, and an insight into what we do.
We will have some special guests along the way, sharing their experiences and how their professions overlap with what we do.
So get yourselves comfy, grab yourselves a cuppa, and let's get into today's episode of
Just Talk Funerals. Hello and welcome to our next episode of Just Talk Funerals with both myself and Jason. Right, so today we're going to be talking about something that we have spoken about before, and it by popular demand really. There's been a few people got back in touch with us, hasn't there, to talk about what can we do with our cremated remains or our ashes. Once the service is finished, the funeral is over, people are left with this urn or casket or container with ashes in, and I think sometimes it can be quite overwhelming for people to know what to do. So we thought we'd just have another conversation around what options you've got.
Well, I think we'd talk to start with about people that keep hold of ashes. I'm going to refer to this as ashes all the way through this. It's always my terminology. I know some people use cremated remains, but ashes is the words that I'm going to use. So some people keep them at home. Some people really don't want to part with them.
Yeah.
And there is no law. It says that you have to dispose of somebody's ashes. Is an awful terminology, really, and to dispose of.
Yeah.
So some people will keep them at home. They may well keep them in urns. They might split them around the family, so people have keepsake urns. Caskets, you put them out on show. But there's such a diverse mix now of all sorts of things that you can put people's ashes in. Some things you wouldn't even know that it's a receptacle holding ashes. Yeah. And we work with a company that does things that just look like general, really nice ornaments. Yeah. And you wouldn't know unless somebody told you that they were holding someone's ashes in them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as for keepsakes and things like that, that's becoming increasingly more popular where people choose to split the ashes and like the grandchildren, the children, they all want a part of them with them. Yeah. And even down into, I know we're probably going to talk about it a bit in a minute, putting them into jewellery as well. So it's another way of keeping hold of somebody's ashes.
Yeah, definitely. So why do you think some people sometimes need time before deciding what to do with ashes?
I think some people will never decide, if I'm brutal. I know people that will never ever part with somebody's ashes. Yeah. And I don't think you should be forced into a situation where you're having to make a decision. Keeping hold of somebody's ashes is deeply personal. We get that. Yeah. And for many reasons do people keep hold of them. Yeah. But to then say to somebody that I think it's about time we did something with somebody's ashes, I know them conversations happen. And it'll only be on that person's terms when they choose to do something with them, which they may well never do. Yeah. These ashes may well pass down generations before something happens with them. Yeah,
definitely. I think as well, we see all sides of the scale really, don't we? Because you've got those that take a long time or maybe never part with them, But then you've got others that will make a decision very quickly. Now, I think, unless you exceptionally or you really know what you want to do with those ashes, you need to be careful with that as well, don't you?
Yeah, don't knee-jerk into something.
No.
Because it might be the wrong decision, and in hindsight, it might have been something else that you wanted to or needed to do with them. Yeah. I think a lot of people take instruction from probably a past funeral. So say, for instance, it's a grandparent that's died, but the other grandparent had already died. Yeah. So that partner who survived the other one may well have already made the decision that we're scattering, we're burying, something like that. Yeah. And it's a repetition of that when that other person within the couple then goes. It's not an assumption, but a lot of times that's usually what happens. Yeah. So the family or friends that are dealing with the funeral of that person, they've probably already know in advance what they're going to be doing. Yeah. But it's those that generally don't have an idea, but then make a reaction and do something. Would rather you took your time. We can look after somebody's ashes for as long as you need us to, or you can take them into your charge. Don't necessarily go and scatter them, and then that turns out to be the wrong thing for you. Yeah. I really would take your time over that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also worth pointing out that, in the UK, there is no legal time limit, is there, for people to have to do something with their loved one's ashes.
No, and there shouldn't be a time frame. I can't think forever that they will set a time frame on it, because when you look around funeral homes around the UK, I'm sure all funeral directors, if they're listening into this, they'll agree with you that they're holding ashes, and they might have been holding them for many, many years.
Yeah.
I guess we've kind of reached the point where if we as funeral directors are holding ashes and we've held them for so long, keeping in touch with them families to see if they still want us to hold them.
Yeah.
Do you want to do anything with them, but don't put any pressure on people?
Yeah.
But then what happens when that kind of family's all passed away and you have nobody else to then make these decisions? People's ashes could potentially stay with funeral directors for decades, centuries, couldn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so let's move on to scattering ashes, because there are sort of lots of different sort of locations that you can do that, isn't there?
Yeah.
If we start with, gardens.
People's own gardens?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you're going to do that, that's your choice. We can't say you can or you can't. That really is your choice. Yeah. All I would say is just bear in mind, are you always going to live in that property?
Just thinking about the bigger picture there.
Yeah. Is it going to stay in the family forever?
Yeah.
So if it's right for you, then yeah, that's right for you. But I would be asking the questions about the bigger picture, what's going to happen in near and later times.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is scatter somebody's ashes and you use that area as kind of a peaceful area for yourself, and you reflect in that area. And then if you move away from that property, what are you then going to do?
Yeah.
Because you've lost that. You can't really revisit it once you've sold your house.
Am I right in thinking, and I might be totally off scale here, but if you do sell your house and you have interred or buried some ashes in your garden, are you at liberty to tell the next person that?
If you've interred them, yeah, definitely. Yeah. It needs to be on your deed. So they're still classed as human remains.
Yeah.
But if you've then scattered them on a bedding area or on your grass or something, then you're not going to have that kind of record. But yeah, if you've got them en masse together within there, then yeah, it's your obligation to let land registry know that they're within there.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess if we're talking about gardens like parkways and things like that, in theory, you should get the landowner's permission, shouldn't you?
You should. Yeah, I would always encourage that, but I guess there's always going to be places where you maybe don't know who to get that permission from, or where would you get that permission from. We get a lot of people decide to take them on holidays and scatter them in the sea and things like that, and the favourite place where they used to look out at something. There's all sorts of things. And actually, while we were out walking, weren't we, in I think where we were at the time, we were in the Lake District.
We were in the Lake District.
And we went quite a way up into the hills.
Yeah.
And we came across a lake randomly at a really high height. And we knew full well that that was human ashes and more than one person's ashes. Yeah. Because whoever had scattered them had literally done the perimeter of this lake. Yeah. So I think there was a multitude. So I think there was a family's worth of ashes got scattered at once there.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very quiet location, but there was a lot. I mean, for us, we knew exactly what they were. Yeah. But yeah, I've never seen that in mass in a
not en masse like that before. And it's a heck of a trek to get to where it was, wasn't it? So if they're carrying multiple sets of ashes, there would have been a lot of weight there as well.
Definitely. Yeah. And then I guess people, they decide somewhere in the countryside, or like we've said, a meaningful location, and something that you alluded to as well, at sea. I
think a lot of people, when they choose to do it at sea, they'll either go out in a boat or they'll do it from the end of a pier or something. Very few people will do it stood on a beach because the ashes are just going to wash straight back into you. Yeah. But there are receptacles that you can put people's ashes in for sea scattering, sea burials, which kind of just float on the surface. They're all biodegradable. And then after a few seconds, they bob around and then just make their way underwater.
It's quite graceful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot more dignified than stood off the end of a boat and the wind's blowing in the wrong direction. Yeah. So, there are ways of doing it with a little bit more decorum than just tipping them out of an urn. Yeah.
You know, other people would scatter maybe on rivers or lakes, but again, it would be good to get permission if you know who you can get permission from, or local guidance.
I mean, if you're doing it in a lake, definitely, because that water, unless it's fed by a river or something, it's not going anywhere. It's always going to stay there.
Yeah.
Rivers tend to be flowing, so some will be tidal, some will just be from a mountain down to a sea level. And I mean, there are certain religions that encourage you to do that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we know for well that the Sikh and Hindus would love their ashes ideally to be scattered on the Ganges.
Yeah.
But if you can't get them there,
yeah.
then so long as they're on flowing water, that's more than acceptable.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's just think about where you're doing it. Don't do it somewhere where it's going to harm the environment.
No.
Ashes aren't going to physically hurt the earth, but if you put it in like a stream that feeds a drinking water system, that's not right. No, you just be careful and mindful about where you're doing it.
Yeah.
And if you can, get permission.
Yeah. And I guess another area where we do try and advise people is like local crematorium, the gardens where others have been scattered.
Yeah. I mean, 100% you need to get the permission from that local authority because, number one, they want to record it, so they want to know exactly where people are.
Yeah.
There may well become times where they need to do works within the grounds, and if they weren't to know ashes were in a certain location, they would carry on and do that work. But if they knew they were there and recorded it there, then they know what to avoid.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we'd always encourage them to do that, even if you've cremated at a different crematorium. So some people do that, and then taken the ashes to a secondary crematorium, make them aware. Sadly, there'll be a fee, because if you move from one crematorium to another, there will be a fee.
Yeah.
But better the fee and it be recorded properly than just turning up and doing it ad hoc.
Yeah.
And then you turn up one day and they started building something else and it's on where your ashes are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. So what we need to understand then is that we need to get permission, especially if it's on private land.
Yep.
What is also interesting is in terms of inland waterways, we should be getting guidance from the environmental agency.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, we wouldn't encourage you doing that on inland waterways because of what we just spoke about. But if it's a specific place, like we say, a flowing river, just to have a chat with the Environment Agency, and then I would hazard a guess they'll probably say yes. Rarely would they say no, but you just got to be, like I say, mindful of where it is and what it's feeding and what it's doing. Yeah. Because that will have a bearing on whether they allow it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And as we've said, crematoriums, local crematoriums, making sure that you are recording the fact where that location is and speaking with your local crematorium, your local authority.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
make sure that...
Yeah, equally it's the same if you're considering it in a churchyard.
Yeah.
Get permissions for that, because the last thing you want to do is upset people, and equally you don't want to upset yourself if you've done something wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so when we do scatter, and we've had the funeral service, we've maybe made an appointment with a family because we will support them in that journey of scattering as well, won't we?
Yeah.
And the family will gather, and I think you do just see that release of people knowing that's the final thing, and the scattering becomes that emotional release.
Yeah, and it does get quite emotional at that point, because it's the reality that you've gone from human to ashes in a relatively short space of time.
Yeah.
And what you've known for however long you've known that person is not now that. Yeah. So it's earthly remains.
Yeah.
So you've been consumed in the cremation down to the point where you're left with, in the nicest sense, skeletal remains, which have been broken down into somebody's ashes. So yeah, it really does. It's like the reality is, my word, I'm never going to see that face, that smile, that look anymore. And this is what we now have.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I guess probably they brought out cremation whenever it first came out, people, I guess, were really shocked at that.
Yeah.
Some religions, it was always a thing, but for a westernised society, it used to be all burial until, I guess, Victorian times, really, when it started changing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what else to say on that, really, apart from the fact that I've witnessed many people get much more emotional at the scattering of ashes than they ever did at the actual funeral service itself.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of that scattering time as well, do you think it's important that as funeral directors we do a little something with that family? I mean, we would always either read a poem or say a few words. Do you think that's really important?
I do, but equally I think you should give the choice, because some people don't want anything, whereas I think it's just nice to do something.
Yeah.
And I often use a reading from the Bible, from the book of Corinthians, which talks about love. And I think that's quite apt to use at something like that, and equally at a burial of ashes as well, because it's putting the person's mindset back into the relationship they had with that person, not now what they've got in front of them.
Yeah. And just on a side note as well, with regards to scatterings, now I know through knowing you the different shapes and things that you've done in terms of scatterings, and some of the maybe very unusual sort of requests when it's come to scattering.
I've been asked for all sorts, yeah. I mean, it used to be a case where everybody just had their ashes scattered loosely, or they were around a tree or something. Yeah. And then it became a thing where we started scattering people's ashes in the shape of a heart. Then I've asked for names written out. I had to do a train once for somebody. I am no artist.
Yeah.
And it's tricky decanting some of these ashes from the receptacle we have. But I'll give anything a go. Yeah. To the point where somebody said to me once jokingly, we should have one of them things like Costa have. Yeah, that you put on top of the template. Yeah. And scatter the ashes on top of that. But I took that in jest, and we never did do that.
No.
But well, I'll attempt anything. If somebody gives me a theme, I'd rather have that theme a little bit in advance instead of it dropped on me, because I need to process how I'm going to do it. But anything is possible, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think as well, on that as well, we've said about how we can scatter, but actually it's important that we give the family the choice to be able to scatter too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Just be at their side to just encourage and support that. But, it's quite nice when maybe a loved one wants to scatter, or a few people in the group want to do that. Yeah,
we can't make the assumption that we're going to be the ones doing that. And I think a lot of people get a lot from that. Yeah. Being given that opportunity to do that. Yeah. And the machinery, if you want to call it that you tend to do a scattering from, it's quite simple, where it releases the ashes from the bottom. Yeah. As long as we talk them through the process of how you need to do it and how not to do it, more importantly, then they'll be fine. Yeah. They'll be fine. And we're there to support if they need that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've talked about scattering. What about burial of ashes? Because there's so many different ways. You just touched briefly on burial of ashes at sea. Mm-hmm. So we talk about there's receptacles you can get for that. Yep. You can go down the realms of getting a specific casket that's weighted. Yep. But most people tend to do it either loosely or within a biodegradable receptacle that breaks apart once it's hit the seabed. Mm-hmm. But we've got the differences between local authority cemeteries, churchyards, private cemeteries, at home. If you're burying somebody's ashes, there's lots and lots of different ways you can do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think when it comes to burial as well, through experience, I think it's always people see that burial place as somewhere that they can physically visit to either reflect or to spend some time with their loved one, or to even talk to them, don't they?
Mm. And I think when you do sort of look in these sort of cemeteries and churchyards, there's a marked difference between what type of grave you can have as well and how people feel about that. Mm. Because traditionally, if you like, you would have a lawned grave, which is just a headstone, and then you literally lawn says it all, so you've got grass in front of that. Where you have a traditional grave, which is how it used to be a lot in churchyards, where you've got a curb that comes out onto the ground, and it gives you that much more freedom to be able to put your own elements within the boundaries of that curb. Yeah. I think a lot of people will choose that over a lawn nowadays because they might want to bring things, they might want to put a flower vase in there, might be something really personal to the person. And it always kind of begs the question, if somebody's burying somebody's ashes, why did you not bury the person instead of burying their ashes? So bury them as a human. And it's really contentious question, that, because I know in the Catholic faith it used to be you had to bury everybody. Always had to bury everybody. But then the Vatican loosened their grip on that a little bit because they were seeing this trend moving towards cremation. And I think probably if you look around Ireland, there was never any crematoriums. Now that there's still very few dotted around, but it's people's beliefs through religion and personal belief as to whether they cremate that person or whether they keep them buried as a whole. I've not personally questioned people in depth because people usually know what they want to do. But occasionally we'll go down the route of, so you're having them cremated, but then instantly having them ashes buried. Just trying to get into them, realising why they want to do that, as opposed to going for the full burial. Because, not that we're bringing cost into it necessarily, but there can be a big difference. So if you're paying for a grave and you're paying for a cremation, whereas you could have just paid for a grave. There's loads and loads of factors really, but I think people just tend to know what they want to do, and it's just giving people the options of what's available and what you can do. But yeah, it became a big thing in the last sort of 30-ish years, I guess. Burial of ashes, where you get a grave that's probably a third or a quarter of the size of a full-size adult grave. So yeah, there's loads of different reasons why people choose it.
Do you think as well, with cremated remains graves, you can get at least four in a cremated remains grave, can't you? Years ago, when you buried, you could go down to like quadruple depth, couldn't you? And under health and safety now, that's sort of deemed as not being able to, or certainly water tables in different cemeteries make it very tricky. So do you think it could also be around the fact that, you can get more cremated remains into a grave?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I mean, that quad thing used to be a thing in our area where you could go to that, and then there was an incident where a grave digger was digging to that depth, and that's a long way down.
It is, especially when you've got a lot of sand in your soil.
Yeah. I mean, they use a machine for the majority of it, but you've still got to board it out by hand.
It is a long way.
And when you're down probably 10 to 12 feet, that's a lot of earth above you. And sadly, part of that earth came in while they're in there. Nobody died before we go down that road, but he did get trapped for a while, and he needed to get his legs released because he couldn't get out of the grave quick enough. So that put pay to the quadruple depth down here. But I know around the country there's still cemeteries doing quad depth, but some of them are using hydraulic shuttering instead of physically getting down into the grave to go to that depth.
But that's tricky if you're in a really old cemetery, isn't it? Because all that you need space to be able to get, and if you're reopening a grave and it's that deep, trying to get, because there's graves either side and all around, becomes really tricky as well. The logistics of that are difficult, aren't they?
Yeah, you need to be mindful for the memorials that are also around as well. But yeah, sorry, going back to the question, I went on a tangent there, didn't I? Keeping 4 family members or friends together in one space, one smaller space. Yeah, I get that. So you've got the initial purchase of the grave, and then it's just an interment fee for every set of ashes after that. What we need to do is, though, when people do this, we need to be having conversations with them at the start about when you're putting a memorial on, how many people you think are going to go into that grave, how you use the space on your memorial, where you put your flower vases on your memorial. We'll maybe bring that into another conversation another day. But you've just got to be mindful and forward thinking about the future. So don't just use all of your space on your stone, because then when the second person goes in there, what do you then do? Because you've used all that space. You don't
Somebody's already chosen that stone. It becomes very tricky, doesn't it?
It's personal, isn't it? You don't want to be changing the memorial for them 2 reasons, really. One, the cost of a new memorial, and 2, somebody chose that stone. So why would you then want to change it?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So let's talk about something that is a little contentious, and that is dividing ashes, isn't it? Yes. People have so many different thoughts on whether you should, you shouldn't. In terms of rules and regulations, there is no reason why you cannot divide ashes.
Nope.
There is no rules against that whatsoever, is there?
Nope.
And common reasons why people do want to divide ashes is maybe because there's multiple family members. There might be a lot of grandchildren, and they maybe all want to have some jewellery. Or they want to keep a piece of, the loved one, or, if it's a parent, sometimes ashes are divided, aren't they, between children. It might be because that person went to lots of locations, they travelled, the loved one or the person that's got those ashes wants to be able to take those ashes to different areas and leave some ashes in those different locations that they visited. Or it could be cultural or emotional needs, couldn't it?
Yeah, and I think, my personal view on it is I don't foresee there's a problem with it, really. And if you get comfort from that and everybody's in agreement with that, why would you not? But then there's other people that are absolutely mortified when the suggestion's put in front of them that they're going to split the ashes. It's tricky, isn't it? It is tricky.
Yeah.
Because, I'm pro it. I think probably you are as well.
I am, but that doesn't mean to say, if somebody doesn't want to, it's each to their own. Again, it's a choice of that person, isn't it? It's very personal.
That, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, if you can give more people more joy from having a piece of somebody's remains with them, then why would you not, really? And especially how things have sort of come on in the last couple of decades with jewellery and keepsakes and things, then it's opened up them opportunities. Yeah. It was never a thing 30, 40 years ago. It was just the ashes were either scattered or they were buried or somebody kept hold of them.
Yeah.
Rare would you hear somebody saying, oh, we split them. There's 20 grandchildren and they each took a keepsake themselves. But now it's a thing. Yeah. And you've got to move with the times, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, that moves us nicely into memorial jewellery, isn't it? And, jewellery that, that's available to us in the UK and other countries that we bring into our funeral home, where people can have a small amount of ashes put into, whether it's jewellery or glass or something like that. And I think I didn't realise until we started doing more jewellery, because you identify those pieces when you're out and about. My goodness, there's a lot of people wearing jewellery that's got ashes in.
Yeah, because they are unique, and if you're in the industry, you know which ones they are, especially ashes to glass, when they were one of the first ones that started putting things into like resin and glass.
Yeah.
And you can spot them a mile off. Yeah, maybe not the public would, but we can.
Yeah, like rings and necklaces.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you see them straight away. Yeah,
you do, don't you? But that doesn't mean to say, glass keepsakes like paperweights. There are other things as well, aren't there, that you can have some ashes put into where you're not wearing that, you're leaving that at home and it's in a safe place, isn't it?
Yeah. And then paperweights, just because you mentioned that, they were really popular. Yeah. They still are. Yeah. And it's like, I think they're quite retro the way they've done them. So it's like got a spiral in the middle.
Yeah, of colour.
You choose the colour, and then how they do it, I've no idea. Yeah. But the ashes bond to the spiral on the outside of the spiral. Yeah. So it's really, really clever.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got fingerprint jewellery, haven't we?
Yep.
And casts. So, and I guess the fingerprints are for those that maybe are going to be buried where there is no ashes. Mm-hmm. But then some people will take fingerprints before the cremation process, won't
Definitely,
they?
Yeah.
So that's another option you've got, as well as your memorial headstones and your plaques as well. So, yeah, I think they have their place, don't they?
Of course they do.
People find a lot of comfort in having memorial jewellery and keepsakes.
Yeah, we are always mindful to tell them to be careful how they wear them, how they choose to use them.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to replace that.
No.
You can replace a normal piece of jewellery.
Yeah.
But you've got a part of somebody with you.
Yeah.
And it's really precious, so just be careful how you manage that.
Yeah, really special. Definitely.
Okay, move on to what about when people decide they want something more natural, some more eco? Much as they've been through the cremation process, you're going to bury somebody's ashes maybe in like a woodland setting or a green burial site, something along them lines.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on people doing that over and above using a municipal traditional cemetery?
Again, I think it's each to their own. You know, people have different reasons. You know, we're in a world where we have to be really sort of thoughtful on sustainability, and I think, you know, people often think about that, you know, in terms of their thought process around being more greener. You know, I think people have, you know, if you've got a location that's a green cemetery that's near you, sometimes they can look more peaceful than a municipal cemetery, can't they? Because they've not got all the headstones. It's just very green and very beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, people have, again, different reasons, don't they?
So there's times, I guess, when you're taking the eco route for things, people will think, well, it's hypocritical. You've had that person cremated prior to them being buried. But when you start looking around, not every crematorium's a natural gas crematorium. Some are now electric power cremators.
Yep.
Some are getting towards carbon neutral
Yep.
in the way that they find their power, how they utilise any energy that's released from the crematorium, because you've got all that heat going out of a chimney, basically. If you can recapture that and utilise it for something else, then you can get yourself somewhere nearer a carbon neutral setting. So there are times, if people are taking the eco route, really pare it back and look at where you start with the cremation if you want to have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we have to be mindful about what we buried that person's ashes in as well.
Yeah.
So it's got to be something biodegradable. So you can't be putting like an earthenware urn in the ground. You can't be putting a metal urn into the ground. It's got to be something that's going to break down.
Yeah, eventually.
So the sort of softer the wood, I guess, in one sense, if you're going to do that, or no wood at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things you can get. And there's some lovely eco sort of scatter tubes and boxes and things that you can use that are going to rapidly break down instead of staying under the ground.
Yeah, I mean, you can get like the wicker ones and the banana leaf ones and things like that, which are natural woods again, aren't they? That, you know, look really beautiful, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Okay, so, and I guess the only other sort of thought, and, you know, when it comes to what do we do with our cremated remains, Anne is choosing actually to do nothing at the moment.
Yep.
Or for now. You know, that's quite powerful in itself, isn't it? And probably sometimes overlooked because you're thinking, I need to do something with them. I feel that pressure, and maybe got family members that are saying, come on, what are we doing with these ashes? But actually, like we said at the beginning, not deciding straight away is very valid, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't ever feel under pressure to have to deal with that. When the time's right for you, you'll know it's right for you.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make the wrong decision because there's no going back.
No.
If you've buried somebody's ashes, then in one sense you could exhume them. But if you've scattered somebody's ashes, then there's no going back. That's it. It's final.
No. And I think, you know, it's important to understand as well, grief changes.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, from going through your funeral and then even the days and months after that can be very different.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
You know, so maybe just thinking around, actually, I'll just either take care of these or I'll allow my funeral director to take care of these until I know that I'm ready, you know, because in a sense, time is also part of this ritual too, isn't it?
Of course it is. Yeah. Don't feel under pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we kind of start wrapping this up, we're just going to touch on a little bit about when families disagree. So you're not always going to get every family agree what's going to happen.
No.
And it's how we manage that and how we support everybody to get into the right decision.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that will come back to not rushing into things. And a lot of people think they need to deal with things straight away. I would always say when we get a disagreement, just slow down. Let's all get together. Let's find out your reasonings why. And maybe there's a compromise that we can come up with.
Yeah.
We are always in this tricky position where when you've arranged a funeral, somebody's an applicant.
Yeah.
So they're the one that kind of has the final say.
Yeah.
And I've had scenarios where people have come to me saying, I'm next of kin, when it's an elder child, yet the parents may well have appointed a younger child to be an executor. So, yes, you think that you are, but as a child to somebody that's passed away, however many children there are, you've all got equal rights. It's not one has enduring power over somebody else just because of age. So we do get into some really tricky conversations, but we're there to mediate at the end of the day, and everyone's giving their reason for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get to that actual, why is that the reason?
Yeah.
I guess, and I've gone round about the houses there, but...
No, I think it is around finding the right compromise, isn't it? And, you can only do that by listening to different family members, and if we can help with that, it's a bit like a mediation, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
Where we can, we are the ones that, are totally not involved, so mediating.
Partial, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think the key sort of learning from this is don't rush into anything.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Don't feel pressured into doing anything.
No. And I think as well, even if it takes you 6 months, a year, 2 years to understand what you want to do, revisit your funeral director. They will help you at any time. Just because you've moved away from that funeral director and it's been maybe a while, doesn't mean to say that funeral director shouldn't be helping you again when you feel that you need them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll wrap that up for today. Thanks again. See you all soon.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Just Talk Funerals.
We really care about what you think. We'd love your feedback on the subjects raised today, or maybe you have a question you would like us to talk about in a future episode. You can contact us by emailing podcast@threadgoldfunerals.com.
If you'd like to know more about what we do and the services we offer, then please head to jasonthreadgoldfuneraldirector.com. Thank you for joining us today, and see you next time.